What's up everybody, Superdorks fan here for a little bit of a different video, and this was really popular when I did one about the BRZ, and so I wanted to do one now that I have the Mustang, and that is why I love the Mustang. I've owned it now for about 8 months, and it's really been great. In those 8 months I've racked up nearly 19,000 miles, so I've driven it quite a bit and feel like I've gotten a pretty good feel for the car and its strengths and its weaknesses, and so I have a list of 10 things I really like about it, and the one thing about it that is keeping it from being perfect. And so the first thing that I want to jump right into is the looks. So a lot of these different points that I'm going to make are going to relate back to my previous cars and what I liked about my previous cars and what I didn't like about my previous cars and how this improves on them. So the first thing is the looks, the styling. Of course, the brand new style here for 2015, very bold, very dramatic, and I've always loved Mustangs ever since I saw Bullitt for the first time and Steve McQueen's Mustang jumping those hills. From that point on, I was in love with the Mustang, and I think that this one really pays homage to the retro stuff, especially the back end with the taillights and the proportions and the fastback style that this body style is now they're calling it, and I absolutely love the styling. I think it's great. At first I wasn't a huge fan of it though. When I first saw it in magazines and whatnot, I was like, I don't know about that front end, but it's really warmed me over. I love the retro cues, like the little gill lights there in the front, and it's just great. And that's something that I grew to appreciate from the Mini, because the Mini, I really like that because of its retro looks whenever I had that, and I love retro things. I'm a very vintage inspired person and really like history and whatnot, so having a car that's been around for 50 years like this Mustang, and having that nameplate that's so iconic, so American, and just so legendary, really was something that really steered me towards the Mustang, and definitely one of the big reasons why I own one. The second reason why I love this car is, of course, the power. One of the best things about it, I mean, yes, it's only the EcoBoost, it's only the turbo 4-cylinder, but it's still the fastest car I've ever owned, and so that might not be saying much, but that's something that, I appreciated, because after owning the Mini, which was a little more powerful than the BRZ, as far as it just felt faster, even though it had less horsepower than the BRZ, but the BRZ as well was not a fast car. 200 horsepower is okay, but the 151 pounds-feet of torque in the BRZ is what really made it feel like there wasn't a whole lot of gusto there. And so it's really nice to have power again. I mean, not just for, flying around or whatever, but for merging onto the highway, for passing people. Those types of things were a challenge in the BRZ. There were times where I'd have to downshift 2 or 3 gears and still just floor it and, hope that I left myself enough room to merge in traffic and stuff, because it was a little tough sometimes. And, I'm all about rowing gears and having fun, redlining an engine like a madman and stuff. That's fun, but after 2 years of owning the BRZ, it got kind of old, and I realized that, I wanted more power. And I think if I would have been able to keep the BRZ longer, I would have definitely turbo or supercharged it at some point. But having the Mustang, I love the power of it. It's really nice to have 310 horsepower from the factory. This one now has the Cobb Stage 1 tune, so it's even quicker than that, and the power is just really nice, and that's something that I really haven't had since the Legacy GT that I owned, the Legacy GT Spec B, that had 250 horsepower from a turbocharged 4-cylinder, and I love that peaky turbo kind of power, the way it comes on. That's why, I am a Super WRX fan after all, and even after all these years, I still am. I still love that car, because even though it's not super fast, it gives you the power in a way that makes it so exciting. It feels faster than it is, and that is something that just gives you driver excitement and makes daily driving fun. And this car has that too, especially after the tune. The boost comes on a little bit more peaky than it did before, but it's so much fun. And once it gets over 2,500 RPMs, it really starts to get into full swing and just rips your head off, especially second gear pulls and stuff. Really, really fun. So the power is definitely something that I'm really enjoying in this car. The third thing is simple, and that is just, I love that it's rear-wheel drive. Obviously all Mustangs are rear-wheel drive, but that's something that I learned to love from the BRZ. It was my first rear-wheel drive car, and I really, really enjoyed it. And I was like, I don't really want to go back to front wheel drive or all wheel drive. I mean, I obviously had the Mini for a while there because of my situation, but the BRZ really was like, wow, I really want rear wheel drive cars as much as possible. And so I absolutely love that this is rear wheel drive. It definitely makes it more fun than its front wheel drive or all wheel drive competitors, just because you can kick that back end out, you just stab the gas and just boom. It's just an instant, again, it's more drama, it's more excitement, and that's what I really love in cars, is when they get you excited. And so the rear wheel drive certainly helps this car to do that. Another thing that I grew to love from the BRZ was the fact that it's a coupe. As simple as that is, that's one of the main reasons. A lot of people say, why don't you own a WRX? And the main reason is I want to save the 4-door cars for when I actually need 4 doors, because there will be the rest of my life where I'll have kids or, you know, lots of friends to transport or whatever. And so at that point, I'll have my fill of 4-door cars. But in the meantime, I want to enjoy the coupes, you know, being a young guy, no kids, nothing. And so that's why every car that I'm buying until I have kids, I think is going to be a coupe, just for that very reason, because I want to be able to enjoy them while I can. And I mean, I'm sure that I can still have a coupe, you know, one after I have kids, just as a second car or something. But for a primary car, I want to be able to enjoy a coupe for now. And so, of course, the Mustang being a coupe fits that, and so I really appreciate that about it as well. The fifth thing that I really love about the Mustang is its luxury. This car, I mean, this is the premium one, of course, so it has the extra luxury features, but it's so nice. I love just sitting down in this seat after a long day of work or first thing in the morning and just sitting down. And these seats, now these are the standard seats. I don't know if there were cars or anything, but I would say these are probably the best seats that I've ever owned in a car. I thought the BRZ would have set the benchmark for me, but this is actually better than the BRZ seats because they're just as supportive as the BRZ seats, but they're more comfortable. And it almost feels like, you know, your favorite chair you have at home, like your favorite lazy boy or big, you know, recliner or whatever. That's how it feels when I sit down in the seat every time. It's just like, back at home. And I love that, and it's so comfortable. Other things that are comfortable is I'm on the standard stock springs and everything, so the ride is very smooth, comfortable. It's pretty quiet in here as well. They did a really good job with refining these new Mustangs for 2015. I mean, just leaps and bounds more refined than the previous versions, and just really makes this car feel like it's way more expensive than it actually is. There's been cars that I've been driving in reviews and stuff that were double the price, that had more road noise, were less comfortable luxury cars than this is. And it's really an impressive feat the way Ford pulled this off. And you know, everything is just, you know, nice and soft to the touch for the most part. And you know, all the knobs and everything are very nice. And it's a really well done job. And you know, and especially since I drive so much, like I said, 19,000 miles in 8 months, luxury is important to me. I mean, I used to have the opinion of, I could daily drive a Lotus Elise, I don't need luxury. But now, after driving all the time and maybe getting older too, I don't know, I mean, I'm only 25, but you know, I think I just kind of are like, you know what, I want to have some luxury, I want to have some refinement. And so that's why I've kind of really grown to love the luxury in this car. Back to more driving dynamics though, another thing that I really love about this car is the transmission, which is the best transmission I've ever owned in any of my cars. The BRZ was really nice and precise and snappy, but it took a little bit more effort. This doesn't take quite as much effort as the BRZ transmission, but it's actually, I would say it feels better. When you're going into gears, it feels better, more positive, and you feel like you're actually going into the gear more confidently than you did in the BRZ. Now, the BRZ transmission is fantastic, not knocking it in any way, but I prefer this better myself. It's actually a shorter shifter as well from the factory, which is nice, while still being not too stiff or anything. It's just really the best of both worlds. I know the Mustang transmissions in the past haven't been a great point, but they've really improved them here for 2015. And the transmission, I love rolling through the gears. It feels so great, and it's really awesome. The next two things are somewhat related, but somewhat different. The first is the stereo in this car, which I really love. Now, this is the 201A package, which has the blind spot monitoring. It has the the cross-traffic detection, and it has the Shaker sound system, the Shaker 1000, whatever, the top of the line sound system here for the Mustangs. And you know, I was never, again, a huge stereo person, but I did enjoy in my Legacy GT, I had a little subwoofer in it, nothing over the top, but it was nice to have that extra bass. And you know, this takes it one step further, because you have that large subwoofer in the trunk, but you also have great speakers, and lots of them, and the sound is the best sounding stereo I've ever owned. And I actually prefer listening to music in the car more than on headphones or on a computer or something, because it sounds that great, and I absolutely love it. And the next thing that's somewhat related is the technology in this car. I love it. So I know my Ford Touch system has some people that don't like it, you know, a lot of complaints, but after all these years of it being on the market, I think they've really refined it. It's phenomenal for me. I mean, the voice control hasn't gotten anything wrong once. Every time I say dial this person's name, or you know, whatever, it always gets the name right. It doesn't, you know, get confused. Everything's quick, snappy, and really easy. You know, Bluetooth audio always connects. Everything always works, which is something that can't be said for a lot of the infotainment systems out there. And so I love it. I absolutely love it. It's great, all the features this has. I didn't have the navigation installed here on my car, but you know, even without it, it's still just a really feature-packed thing. There's lots of great tools and whatnot, and other things. Of course, you have this center display here on the Mustang that has, you know, my boost gauge is what I always run on here because of the turbo, of course, but there's all kinds of gauges, there's all kinds of performance meters. You know, it's up there. It has enough tech to rival the BMWs and stuff like that. And again, at, you know, this price point, it's really impressive. And you know, all the other cool little features, just the, you know, the ambient lighting in here that you can change to different colors, and you know, all these things that really just add to the experience. It makes it so much more customizable and just so much more fun to own. And it's just those small things, you know, and even, you know, the things like the pony projection lights that come from the side view mirrors there and project onto the ground. Other, you know, just cool things like that. It's very awesome. And Ford spent a good amount of time with those things. And some people might think that some of those things are a little cheesy, or, you know, I don't know, but I don't agree. They really just make the car cooler, in my opinion. I really like them. So, yeah, really well done job by Ford on that stuff. And numbers 9 and 10 on my list here are two things that are somewhat related as well, but are different. The first is the great fuel economy you get with the EcoBoost Mustang. That was one of the factors that led me towards buying this over the GT. There was a lot of other factors that I'll explain in a minute here, but that was one of the things that really won me over, because, you know, I do drive a lot, and I wanted to make sure that I wasn't getting killed at the gas pump. Even though gas is cheap right now, we know how that goes up and down, so I wasn't going to just say, oh, well, gas is cheap currently, so I'm going to go and buy a V8. So, you know, I wanted to make sure I had something that was fuel efficient, and so, you know, I get pretty good gas mileage here. I mean, it depends a little bit on what kind of gas you put in it and things like that, but I've been getting at least 25.5 to 26 miles per gallon, at least, in mixed driving, and so that's normally up closer to 27 or even 28 sometimes miles per gallon. On the highway, I've gotten over 30. I got up to, I think, 31 miles per gallon on the highway as well, which is good. I know there are some people, I think actually my buddy that has a GT with the 331 gears, he's actually managed to get 30 miles per gallon in his GT on a recent road trip. So that's not only the EcoBoost, but in the normal driving around town and things like that, the EcoBoost does definitely have an advantage, because I've seen some people with the GTs getting like 18 miles per gallon, and even driving this car spiritedly as I do, still getting high 20s for fuel economy, which to me is very impressive. And it's actually, that's right up there with my little BRZ engine that I used to have with, you know, it was only a 2-liter non-turbo lighter car that was getting barely the same gas mileage. So I mean, it's really, I mean, I'm getting better gas mileage than like my parents' little like Subarus and stuff. It's insane how good the gas mileage is in this car, and so it's definitely a big selling point for those that are trying to watch their pocketbook a little bit. And the last thing is the whole affordability of the car in general. So it's an extremely good bang for your buck. I mean, it's one of the most powerful cars you can get under $30,000 brand new, and it's just you know, it's not even just the price, because, you know, I was pricing this, I was like, well, I would really like the GT, mainly just for the sound, if nothing else. I love the way the V8 sound, of course, but, you know, when I looked at it, you know, a similarly equipped GT would run me roughly $6,000 to $7,000 more. So that's a big savings, and, you know, with this tune that I did for $500, you end up getting as much torque as a GT. I mean, I'm still down 100 horsepower over a GT, so it's not like it's as fast as a GT, but I have as much torque, and I saved $7,000, you know, and I still have the same features, all the same goodies that you get with the GT Premium, and so it's awesome, and I think it's a really good value, you know, for someone that, you know, wants something like this. I mean, they start with the cloth seats and the basic radio and stuff at like $26,000, which is really unbeatable. That's what you're charging for BRZs and FRSs and stuff now. So, I mean, to have 310 horsepower, 320 pounds-feet of torque, which is double the torque you get in an FRS or BRZ, for the same price, and you get, you know, a larger car that gets just as good a gas mileage and is more comfortable. You know, I know, obviously, now the BRZ handles way better. You know, the Mustang doesn't handle bad, but the BRZ is definitely more of a driver's car. It was sharper, more precise. I had more confidence in corner carving than I do with this. But then again, I'm on all-season tires with this car, and, you know, I think a few suspension mods would fix that pretty quickly in this, and that's something I plan to do eventually. But you know, even, you know, without that stuff, though, I mean, the BRZ is definitely the lighter car, and a little more fun to drive on the back roads and things like that. But for daily driving and just driving around town, and, you know, when you're on any kind of straight road, it's just fun to have this power. And so, yeah, it's just a phenomenal value. But it's not only just that as far as affordability, because there's more that goes into affordability of a car than just the price tag and just even the fuel economy, and that is insurance. Especially younger males like myself really get killed on insurance rates, and for good reason. I mean, a lot of us, you know, pull handbrakes around corners and wrap them around trees or whatever. You know, it's just part of being a young male driver, I guess, and that's okay. But it means that insurance is more expensive, and that's something you have to consider whenever you're, you know, going to buy a car. And so, you know, that's something that was definitely, you know, I actually gave them, you know, I got a quote for a GT whenever I was shopping for this, just to see how much more it would cost, and it was a good amount more, a large amount more. And so that's another thing that kind of kept the GT out of reach for me, because I would still love a GT at some point, you know, if I could afford one and things like that. But for now, I'm very happy with the EcoBoost, and it's just really an awesome car for the money. So the one thing that's keeping this car from being perfect in my eyes is the sound. Now, the sound isn't bad. You know, they did this sound engineering thing with this amplifier and whatnot to give it a little bit more of a growl than standard, but I actually did a video of removing that amplifier and the whole fake sound thing, and there's not a whole lot of difference. It's just a little less refined. This sound system kind of just refined that engine note a little bit, but that's really the big downfall, is even when you put an exhaust on it, it still sounds like a 4-cylinder, which is sweet and awesome, but a lot of people say it doesn't fit the Mustang feel. And I'm kind of a traditionalist. Like I said, I'm an old school kind of person with the whole retro kind of thing, and I would prefer if it did have a V8 sound, obviously, but you're not ever going to get that out of a 4-cylinder, and that's just the way it is. So that's something that I've come to accept, and I think once I get an exhaust on here, I'm really going to enjoy the way it sounds. It's just, over the past 8 months, you know, I've kind of shifted what I feel Mustang is, and, you know, it used to be that it's just this screaming loud V8 muscle car, and this still is, you know, a muscle car, I guess you can say, but there's new ways to have muscle, if that makes any sense. You know, just muscle and V8 aren't synonymous anymore. Muscle can mean, you know, you can have a seriously fast car that isn't a V8, and that used to not be the case, and that's why everyone put V8s and stuff, you know, many years ago. But now you can have a seriously fast car that still has a lot of muscle and strength in the power and the way it delivers the power and stuff without having the actual V8. And so, you know, I'm happy with, you know, the power and the engine, but the sound, it's still, there's better sounding cars out there. There's even better sounding 4-cylinders. The CLA 45 AMG that I reviewed is a prime example. There's some awesome sounding 4-cylinders. This isn't necessarily one of them, in my opinion. I think just even for a 4-cylinder on its own, this doesn't sound that great. But that's my personal opinion. Of course, there's exhaust systems to tailor it however you like it, but that's basically that. And so yeah, those are all the you know, main reasons why I love the Mustang, and the one drawback that I think that it has. But like I said, it's a small drawback. I mean, sound is a big deal to me, and that's why I've even bothered mentioning it, because sound is huge, and sound really does help add to that drama and excitement that you feel towards a car. But like I said, with an exhaust, this will still sound dramatic and sound crazy and angry, but it'll just be a different tone than the V8, which is okay. So, you know, but that's it. That's really the only thing, is the sound. That's the one thing I think that keeps a lot of people out of the EcoBoost, but it really shouldn't, because I think all the other pros, the 10 things that I just listed, really outweigh the cons of, you know, the sound. And I think that, putting that aside, this is probably, I mean, I'm obviously biased, I own this car, but I think this is, if you want something that's powerful and still really fun to drive, I think this is the best thing you could probably get under 30,000 bucks. Just my opinion. I mean, the Camaro is a phenomenal car as well, and I love those. And I've reviewed several of them that are lots and lots of fun. The Challenger is fun in its own way, although that's a lot bigger and heavier and whatnot. But there's a lot of great cars, but this is just my favorite. And again, that's just my opinion, but yeah, I really enjoy it. And so yeah, that's everything. But thank you guys very much for watching. Let me know what you think about this video, and what you think about the Mustang. And so yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Take care.